Well, it has been almost a month since I have posted a video on here, and what better way to make a comeback than with a review for a film that really took me by surprise. Wicked tells the story of Elphaba and Glinda and how they became friends, and their origin story, essentially. And it stars Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba and Ariana Grande as Glinda. Now, this is a film that I have been cautiously optimistic about. I'm not the biggest musical person, if I'm being honest. It's just never been a genre that I have fallen in love with. But every trailer has increased my excitement. The scale of this film had always really captivated me, and I like Jon M as a director, so I was very curious to see what he was going to do with this material. And I'm going to say something that I have been given crap for my entire life. I'm not the biggest fan of The Wizard of Oz. Now, I recognize that this is a very well-made film, but it has just never hit me like it has for everybody else. So, entering back into a world that I've not been the biggest fan of also gave me a bit of pause, but as I'm about to explain, this film blew me away. I have a list of everything I want to talk about over here, so if you see me glancing off, it is to make sure that I talk about everything that I want to talk about here, because there is a lot I want to cover. I want to make sure that everybody is getting the acknowledgement they deserve for the incredible work that has been done on this film. So, all that being said, let's go ahead and dive in here. First off, I want to talk about the friendship element in this film between Elphaba and Glinda. It doesn't take long before these two meet, and at first they are rivals, don't really see eye to eye, but watching this friendship grow and develop and the trials and tribulations they go through, especially in the third act, I found really interesting. And once they become friends, it's really, really easy to root for both of them. And obviously, this is done a large part by the performances from Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, who are both perfectly cast in their roles. Never once does it feel like they were miscast. From the second they both appear on screen until the very end, you immediately buy into the fact that they are their characters. The story, as it progresses, also has a surprising amount of humor, and it never really feels out of place. It feels organic to the story. It doesn't feel like they put a joke in a certain scene just to put a joke in there. It was surprisingly organic, and same with the heart in this film. It just felt right. Whenever there was a heartfelt moment, particularly a moment on the dance floor between Cynthia and Ariana, it was just so sweet to watch. This friendship was something that I bought into and really kept me invested in the film as it progressed. While I'm talking about the performances, obviously this goes without saying, and I figured this would be the case ever since this casting was announced. Jeff Goldblum as the wizard, it's perfect casting. I mean, he is as eccentric and as wacky as this character needs to be, and he fit the role perfectly. I wish we would have seen more of him, but something tells me we will in part 2. The direction in this film is also remarkable. From the very first scene to the very last, Jon M has complete control and command over this film and brings so much energy into so many of these scenes. And I'll get to this a little bit later, but the movie is long. It is 2 hours and 40 minutes, but Jon manages to keep the energy going. The film never really drags. He just brings so much life to this film, and especially the musical numbers, but again, that is something that I will get to here in a moment. I was in awe of everything I was watching as far as the directing goes in this film. Now, like I said, this is a musical, and so there is quite a bit of music. In fact, I think there is a stretch in this film where they might do like 3, 4, maybe even 5 songs back to back to back. I could be wrong, but it really seemed like there was. And I don't need to say this, but if musicals aren't your thing, this isn't going to change your mind. You're not going to watch this and think, "Oh, I love musicals now." If you enjoy them, I would highly recommend this. But if you're not a musical fan, this isn't going to convert you most likely. But the music in here really covers a wide range. You have the energetic, standard Broadway musical songs, but you also have these really powerful, like almost ballads, particularly one towards the end that just threw me back into my seat with the power of the vocals from Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. The music never felt like you were listening to the same song over and over and over. They all had an original element to them, and Jon M. Chu's directing of these musical numbers, particularly one in a library that I thought was really creative and just made the number all the more entertaining to watch and listen to. The big component here of this review that I wanted to really give a highlight to was the production design and costume design here. Every hallway of Shiz University, of the Emerald City, it all felt so rich and detailed, and you could tell that this was all crafted with the utmost care and respect to the story that was being told. It is captivating with a capital C. I could not stop looking at every little detail within each frame and just constantly being in awe of everything that was being displayed on screen. And this goes for the costume design as well. There are a lot of costumes in this film because it is a musical, and they all looked so fantastic. And the color, all of it just popped. I honestly could watch this film again and hone in even more on all of the details with the costumes and the production design. I could not get enough of it. This is the definition of a crowd-pleasing film. There is laughter, there is heart, there are musical numbers that are going to make you want to stand up and clap at the end of them. And watching this with a packed audience this evening was phenomenal. I couldn't imagine watching this at home in my living room by myself. This was such a communal experience, and I've said it before, and I will continue to say it over and over and over again. This is the type of film that theaters were made for. This demands to be seen with an audience on the biggest screen you can find. I want to go back and watch it again for a lot of reasons, but one of them is I want to share this theatrical experience with an audience once again. It's people that are excited, that love the material, or if you're like me and you don't really know the material or the story, I haven't seen the Broadway play, it's everybody coming together and having a good time in this film. I was hooked from beginning to end, and so was the audience. You could hear a pin drop in the theater, which unfortunately isn't the case with most movies, but it felt like everybody was hanging on to every word that they were saying on screen, and were just completely immersed. Now, this is part one of two. And if you had asked me 2 days ago, having not known what this material was really going to encompass, if you would have asked me if I thought this was necessary, I probably would have said no, if I'm being honest. Just guessing, I figured you could have fit this story into one film, and after seeing part one, there is no shot that this story could have been told in one film. It could have been done, obviously, but building up this friendship and a lot of the other key characters in this story is mandatory for the next bit of story that is going to be told to really, really work. By the end, you were rooting for people, you were sad, you were anxious, and that's because you had just spent 2.5 hours with these characters and getting to know them and their relationships and the dynamic and the rifts between certain characters. All of that was built up so well that when this finale happens, I couldn't wait to sit down in a theater and watch part 2. And so, a lot of people don't love when a film is part 1. You feel like you have to, wait for part 2, and sometimes you don't know if you're going to get a second or third part. I'm just so glad that this was divided up into 2 separate parts, because I think it is going to serve both parts in the long run to have them split up like this. So it is part 1, know that, but one thing that I did enjoy hearing, I think it was a couple weeks ago in an interview, Jon M was saying something, I'm not going to get these words exactly right, but he was saying that he wanted part 1 to still feel like a satisfying story, that you weren't being left like cheated out of something. And I know exactly what he means now after seeing part 1. This, in and of itself, is a satisfying story. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, but the door is left open for the continuation. So you leave the theater feeling satisfied with what you have just watched while being eager to go and return to this world in a year's time with part 2. So it's part 1, like I said, but I think in the long run, audiences will really appreciate this decision. Now, there are a lot of movies coming out within the next week. I mean, you got Gladiator 2 later this week on the same day as Wicked, and you have Moana 2 less than a week after that. So the battle for premium screens is going to be a tight one. But if you can manage to find a screening of Wicked, whether it's in IMAX, Dolby, ScreenX, any of those, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you go and pay the extra amount to watch this in a premium format. I watched it tonight in IMAX, and the next time that I watch it will likely be in Dolby. The visuals of IMAX were great. The sound, obviously, for IMAX is so great, but I want to experience this one in Dolby. With the Dolby sound, these musical numbers are just going to have all the more impact on the viewing experience, and that is definitely something that I want to check out. So while it is going to be a bit tricky to find one of those showings, and I did do some research after the film to see how the premium shows for this one were selling, you're going to want to get your tickets quick. That's all I'm going to say. Definitely see this one in a premium auditorium with a crowd. You will not regret it. I can't praise this film enough. I had high expectations from everything that I had seen, but this film surpassed them. I think we'll be hearing the name Wicked this award season, especially for like production design and costume. There's no chance it doesn't get. So have you seen Wicked? And if you have, what did you think? Or did you see the Broadway play when it was touring or on Broadway? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this one. I will hopefully have a review for Gladiator 2 later this week and start to get back on track with these videos. Feels so good to be talking about movies again. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for watching.